So I acquired this little Scalextric Targa Florio Mini quite some time ago. I've had it for a while, and I've got to be honest, I hardly ever use the thing. It's a gorgeous little model, aside from a little bit of damage on the back here. But yeah, it's great to look at, but it's absolutely awful to drive, which is a real shame. The problem is, due to the limited space in it, it's got this tiny little motor which is ridiculously overpowered, and it makes up for it by having a ridiculously strong magnet inside. For a while I toyed with the idea of trying to do something with the stock chassis, but spoke with Angelo Amato and he came up with this little thing, which is pretty awesome really. It's the tiniest chassis I've ever seen in my life, but it should serve as a rather good replacement, allow me to mount a pod in there. To mount it, I'm going to have to do some butchery in here, remove some of these little stabilizer posts, remove the body mount posts from the front here. The rear body mount posts for the car are actually part of the interior, which is something that's going to be going. So as a solution for that, the chassis itself is going to be side mounted with these little bits here. And hopefully that should lead some way to some kind of improvement. Now the front little bit of the body here is part of the chassis, so that will need to be cut off. Same with the rear, just the lower part there is actually integral to the chassis, so that's also going to need to be cut off and glued on, so the body is a one piece. But yeah, we'll strip all this down and see what we can salvage. So here it is, bits removed off the chassis and now stuck on the body. I've taken the glass out, and I know there's not a lot of weight to this, but I'm gonna cut the top section of this out. Any weight saved from up high is going to be a good thing. It's not going to be much, but you know, every little helps. So I think it's worth doing. There you go, you can see the bit on the back there that's been stuck on, and the bit on the front. So here is the slotted pod. And the wheels I'm going to use are these little PCS 10-inch ones. In doing so, I encountered a small problem. As you can see, it's a zero offset pod, and there is absolutely no clearance whatsoever. The wheels sit completely flush, or the bottom of the pod sits completely flush with the deck with these wheels on. So some kind of solution is going to have to be devised to get any kind of ground clearance with these little tiny wheels. I could use larger wheels, yes, but these just look right with this little car, so I really want to use these. So we have to try and come up with something. And this may be the solution. Staff's bronze 1mm offset bearings. Now, if I put these in place of standard bushings, you typically use them to offset the rear axle upwards. I'm going to be using them inverted and offset the axle downwards. Obviously I can't use them in a traditional slotted pod, so somebody gifted me a few of these 3D printed two-piece pods. Now the concept of these is alright, but the finish of them and the print quality is pretty poor. They've required a lot of fettling and sanding to get the bushings and the motor to actually fit snugly. It's far too tight in the chassis, so it needs a lot of trimming off the outside. And also, if you look at the fitment here of the slotted pod, see, that fits lovely, whereas the other one just doesn't have the room either side. And if you look at the mounting posts, the 3D printed one is much larger, obviously, to allow for it to be 3D printed, which wouldn't normally be an issue, but on a chassis this short, they're actually fouling the front axle mounts. So in order to get them to fit, you're going to have to shave a hell of a lot of them off. And I found once you did all this, they invariably break, so a new solution needs to be found. Anyway, that's a problem for later. First up, let's see if we can lose a gram or two from this little piece. There you go, trim that out. Just got to neaten up the edges of this a little bit before it goes back in. Could probably go a bit more severe with it, but I wanted to keep it usable. There you go, back in. Like I say, it's not much, but every little helps. And from the outside, still looks completely stock, still looks very nice. So back to the motor pod problem, and we're going back to trying to utilise the slotted pod. Now what we're going to do is take these little bearings, and we're going to have to take the flange off of one side to make them push fit in from the side. So there we have it, clearance hole drilled in the old bushing positions, just big enough for the new bushings. And here you go, you can see the one on the left here has had the flange ground off, ready to push fit in. And that's the result, a 1mm offset pod, offset in the wrong direction. So it's been a bit of a faff, a lot of aligning and a lot of messing about, but I think we're just about there. If you look at that, we now have clearance under the rear of the motor pod. It's not a lot, it's only about, well, just under a mil, but it seems to clear the deck now. There you go, it's a better angle. And yeah, that'll do. Well, that'll have to do, because there's no way I'm going to be able to get any more clearance on that. But now we have a nice fitting motor pod, which fits beautifully in our chassis and gives us a bit of ground clearance. It means I can use these stupidly tiny wheels on this stupidly tiny car. So I made a bit of progress with the little mini project. My slotted crown gears turned up. I've gone with the green one, not because of the ratio it provides, but purely because it's the size, the diameter of it. I needed one that was pretty small diameter to go with these wheels, and that was about the highest tooth that I could get and still have it clear the deck. So yeah, I got that. I paired it with an 8-tooth pinion. I don't know how well that's going to work, because obviously the mesh isn't phenomenal because it's offset, and that's but we'll see how it runs in. I've got an SRP 16K motor in there. Had it lying around, but I think it will suit this car quite nicely, but we'll wait and see. And we've got the side pods on, ready to line up the body and glue that. But a few other things to do beforehand. A bit of trimming. Now originally I was going to leave the bumpers off. The rear bumper on this was broken, so that's definitely staying off. But the front bumper I was going to leave off, but I am actually going to put back on. The reason being, if I zoom in here, see the guide, the clearance between the guide and the body is non-existent. So if you have any kind of rotation, the guide wires are going to foul the body. So I'm going to need to trim this little bit of body here, but with the bumper on, that number plate should obscure the bit I'm going to have to cut out. So all goes to plan, it'll still look like this, and you won't see any of the bit I'm going to have to cut out here. Didn't want to have to cut the body there, but I think it's a necessity. But definitely making progress. This is starting to look very cool. Right, a little bit more grinding was needed, but I think I'm happy with that clearance now. It's just touching, but I think that's going to be fine. I think it's just about enough that we need. And there's plenty of free guide movement there, and it's all seems to be centering back all right. So yeah, where are we? Just needed this little arc taken out of the bottom of the front. But hopefully that'll all get covered up by the front bumper anyway. So now we come to possibly my least favourite part of all car builds. It is sticking on the body mounts. Now these are side mounts. Obviously there's no room for like posts in this, it's so bloody small. Side mounts aren't so bad. Normally I'd just support the body on something that's the right height, front and rear, and then put it on. But the tolerances with this are so tiny. It's there's just too many variables. Best way I've found is I've got a little nylon spacer there, and I've just blue tacked one to each wheel arch, and that sets it off just over 1/2 mil, which seems to be about the perfect position. So I've done a little practice run a couple of times. It seems to work. So time to stick some glue on it and hope for the best. Right, moment of truth. Wish me luck. So here it is, the little Mini, complete with its lovely little chassis. It's hilarious how small this thing is. Still no interior, still no inserts, but we've come to the club track to give it a little test and run some laps. So let's see how it fares. This little thing is hilarious. I'm baffled as to how well this thing performs. I was genuinely expecting it to fall over on the first corner and have to start throwing loads of weight in it and everything, because it's still a tiny, tiny little car, but it absolutely rips around here. Okay, it's not the fastest thing in the straight, it's only got a little 16k motor, but you can sling it around all the bends. It just hugs the track. And even the back end steps out a little bit and you can slide it around corners. This little thing, look at it. That is hilarious. I know it was a lot of work to make this happen, but it was totally worth it. This thing is just brilliant. It's so small. Cool. Well, yeah, very pleased with that. Right, need to get my inserts ordered, need to finish my interior, get that done, and then definitely calling this little car a massive success story.